I did want to take just a few minutes at the front end of our call to talk a little bit about something that I think will really serve you guys with your goals in the next 6 to 12 months. So it's mid-December, right? We're 2 weeks away from 2023. And so now is around the time that people start thinking, okay, well, either they're like, golly, my 2022 goals really didn't go the way that I thought. How can I make these things happen by the end of the year, which is probably not going to happen. Or more likely, they're starting to think toward, what do I want 2023 to look like? So I want to give you some practical guidance on how you can go about planning that. Things that I have found that have helped me make much more measurable progress than just traditional, say, goal setting or arbitrary, say, even vision casting and things like that. So what I'd encourage you to do is set aside at least one day. It should probably be two, but set aside at least one day where you're fundamentally detached from everything. So no technology, no laptop, no phone, no. Now, if you're a parent, you got to make sure that your kid is alive. That makes sense, but err on the side of no technology. Okay, so disconnect yourself from everything. Give your brain a chance to just completely disconnect. And then what you're going to do is you're going to spend a little bit of time looking back at 2022 or the previous year and looking at things that went well and looking at things that didn't go well. If this is your first time setting goals, then you can do this a little bit more high level. But if you set goals for 2022, you want to measure against them. Say, did I reach it or did I not? And why? What's the reasoning for that? Was it because of some fundamental failure, or did I have some medical, like, did something come and present itself that made a lot of sense? Like, it makes sense that I chose to prioritize this thing. So compare those things. Emphasize gratitude on that side of things. So the gratitude for what happened in 2022, even if things were hard, a lot of hard things happened. Admit those things, welcome them, but then also credit the fact that they got you to where you're at right now. You're going to look backward at that. That probably shouldn't be, let's say you've got 2 days. Maybe that's a morning, but it's probably maybe no more than an hour, right? The bulk of your time is going to be setting your plan for the future. And so I want to talk about how I do this. A lot of it is founded on some principles found in Living Forward, a book by Michael Hyatt. This book changed my life. This book talks about how to build a life plan. A lot of these leadership books, entrepreneurial books will say you need to build a life plan, but then they don't tell you how to do it. And so then you're like, well, I don't want to end up being a clown or like a janitor or whatever you feel like is undesirable for you. So you're like, I'm not going to make a life plan because I don't want to do it wrong. This book walks you through that process. And a lot of what I've done has been adapted. In fact, Brittany and I, my wife, we do these things together now. And we found that for us, it takes 4 days. We need 4 days to be able to do this in a way where we still have the brain capacity to actually implement it well. And it's not super stressful or whatever. So just be open to iterating on that front. But what I want you to do is first identify all your life accounts. And when I say a life account, I mean areas of your life. This should be something like probably between 4 and 12 areas, maybe 15. But ours is varying on the year. It's usually 9 or 10. And so these could be areas like finances, could be areas like community, could be areas like spirituality, your relationship with God, or it could be your community. It could be whatever those things might be, even intellectual or self-care or mental, emotional, like I mentioned, spiritual, physical health. All of those things you want to outline as the main areas in your life. Those are your life accounts. So if I refer to things as life accounts, that's what I mean. The main areas of your life. All right. And then what you're going to do is focus on one life account at a time. So this is, you've got your time set aside. You're going to set aside, say, 30 or 45 minutes for just one life account. And you're just going to sit there and think about that life account. Let's say that it is friendships. Friendship is a good example for this. You're going to think about friendships and think about your ideal state. you're not tying this to where do I want to be in 5 years? Where do I want to be in 10 years? You're also not thinking, I want to get these specific results. You're describing it and sitting in the moment, experiencing what your ideal state is. So if everything were perfect right now, what would it look like? And then you're going to start describing that around you. All right. So describing it as though you're in it. Okay. So for example, one of the things with my friendships that I've written down is I have 8 strong male companions, 3 of which are in the city in which I live. And I define strong male companions as if something went wrong in their life, I'd be on the next plane to go see them. Right? If someone's dad had a stroke or their kid was going through something really difficult, I would be there next to them. Right? That's a priority for me. Right? So that's a good example. Another example could be for finances or for your business. I have, in your ideal state, you say, I have 100 doors that all cash flow, right? Or it might be, I have, $20,000 a month of cash flow coming in, but you're describing it as though you're in it right now. All right. And the way that you actually do this isn't as important as just doing it. So for example, the reason I say that is my wife does it very different than I do. I like to take unlined paper, or most of the time, if we're at an Airbnb, I'll just bring markers, whiteout whiteboard markers, and I'll write on the windows. And I write, my life account in the middle, and then I have kind of lines off of it, and I just jot it all down. My wife likes lined paper, and she writes it almost like an agenda, which stresses me out. Right. So the actual way that you do it isn't as important as just doing it. All right. So you want to be in that moment. Right? Be in the moment and be thinking, what is my ideal state for this area of my life? Then once your brain is empty, do it just a little bit longer. Say another 5 minutes, try and keep coming up with things. All right. So that's the first stage, is identifying what your ideal state is. And we do this a lot particularly in the first section, establishing your goals, creating a vision, a compelling why, and things like that. This all fits into that area. So you're identifying what it is. Then the next section is comparing your reality to what that is. So if you say, well, I want 8 close male friends, 3 of which live in the same city that I live. And you say, okay, well, I've got 6 really close friends, but only one of them is in the city I live. Okay. That's what you would identify as just your current state. And what I like to do, because I'm really visual, is I'll go anywhere I'll rate each area from a plus to a minus. So plus as in I'm doing really good in this area. Plus as in like, this is good. Minus is like I withdrew from this bank account, right? So if it's friendships, I feel like, I had invested a lot in friendships, but I really kind of withdrew out of that one. Or health, maybe I wasn't as disciplined in health, but I really focused on taking care of somebody in my family that needed physical help. Right. So don't think of it as I did it good or bad. Think of it as almost like, was I depositing or was I withdrawing? Right. So all the way from plus to minus. That just helps you get a visual representation for how did each of these areas go. So first, your ideal, right? You're establishing your ideal, then comparing it to your reality. How does it compare and what are the differences? Right. So if you say, I want to exercise 3 times a week and you're exercising 3 times a week, awesome. Perfect. That's plus, you're good to go. That's awesome. After you do that, the next part is, well, what changes? What are measurable things that I could do in the next 3 months that would help me make progress on these? Right. So this is the tactical, more action-oriented task that you're getting, or that you're adding to that ideal state, so that you can make progress on it. All right. So first, your ideal state, you're actually dreaming it up. This will be the vast majority of it. And then comparing to your current state. This shouldn't take as much time, maybe 5 to 10 minutes per section. And then what am I going to do differently? Right. So come up with a bunch of ideas. You're going to come up with a lot of ideas. If I implemented all of my ideas, I would be a multi-billionaire. Right. But you've only got so much capacity. You only have so much time, physical energy, emotional energy, and you need to just level with that and understand that and pick the things that are going to give you the most bang for your buck. All right. So if it's a little bit of effort, but it's a high output, great, pick that thing. Right. Or if it's really important to you, even though it's going to be a lot more effort, great, pick that thing. This comes down to personal preference, but pick at least 3 things per area and commit to doing them in the next 3 months. All right. And then you're going to repeat this for each of your life accounts. All right. So if you're doing this over a 2-day period, you probably want to do 3 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. All right. Maybe 1 in the evening, but I personally like to leave my evenings for just letting myself rest. And then the next day do about the same amount if you've got 10. But that's about how much you want to break this down, how much time you're going to be spending on it. Then once you get home, you want these to be as visual as possible. There's a lot of research that's correlated with your ability to actually achieve your goals and its presentation to your eyes, how frequently it's presented to your eyes. And so I've got some goals that are up on our fridge, right? I want to pray for some specific friends. And so I've got their names up there, right? I got a buddy that's taken his final boards for being a doctor. Like that's kind of important to him, you know? We've got some friends that are sick that we want to pray for, things like that. And then I also have a vision board for where I take all of my goals and I put them up there for my business and my personal life and all those things. Then you want to check in on those things about every 3 months. Any faster than that, it's probably too fast. If you wait 6 months, it's probably too slow. But this is probably just checking in, setting aside a couple hours at a coffee shop, or maybe getting out of town for a day to check in and do your plus, minus, and just kind of high lows on each area. But what you're doing at the beginning of the year, one of the ways this changes is not saying, I'm going to do this year. It turns it into more of a rolling cycle, which is a lot more healthy and helpful for actually being able to achieve the results that you want. Because research has shown that if you commit to a goal for the end of the year and then you fail on it, let's say you're like, I want to lose 20 pounds, right? And you're up 2 pounds in January, there's a very high likelihood that you're like, screw it, I'll try again next year. And you missed out on 11 months, right? So you want it to be a rolling period where you say, what can I do in the next 3 months to make progress on this? Then when you're reevaluating it, you say, okay, well, I made a lot of progress over here, but I didn't make as much progress over here. And that's kind of where I withdrew from in order to invest over here. Right. But that's the process that I'd recommend you go through for establishing what the next X period of your life looks like, the next year, the next 6 months, the next 5 years. Establish your ideal state. And this is really what you're dreaming up. You say, this is what life would look like if it were perfect. And you're just describing it. So close your eyes, actually visualize in your mind the things that are actually happening around you, the friendships, maybe it's people smiling, maybe it's you checking your bank account in the morning of the first of the month when rent is due and you see a certain amount there that's specific to you that makes you feel safe or that you're protected or whatever, or that you can provide for your family, whatever that might be. Write those things out. The more specific you can be, the better. Right? So not just black and white, but as much color as you can. Then compare it to where you're at and then set some actionable next steps. So that's what I'd recommend for coming up this year. So right now you want to try and plan some time out for that, whether that's just before the new year, whether it's at the beginning of the new year. But I would really encourage you to capitalize on the momentum that the new year brings, right? Everything else is old, but this is new and we can actually make some progress here. So hopefully that's helpful for you. If you guys have questions on that process, I'm happy to answer from what we do and what's been really helpful for serving our family. But I wanted to give you guys a heads up there. Hey, thanks for watching. If this was helpful to you and you want to keep learning the most productive insider secrets about real estate investing, subscribe here. If you're ready to start building your cash flowing portfolio and do what I did, build a multi-million-dollar portfolio in 18 months so that you can quit the rat race 9 to 5 in less than 3 years, and you want someone to walk you through the entire process step by step so that you can move faster with less risk, be protected from risk, then click here to learn how I work with people. And I will show you how I help people get their first cash flowing rental in 90 days. Don't stay trapped, become financially free so you can do what matters.